Good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming. I'm very pleased to present you this presentation, The Online Revolution, Fragrance Retail in a Digital Age, with Michael Edwards in Streaming Connection and Pankaj Patel. Michael Edwards is the founder of Fragrances of the World, and Pankaj Patel is the director of technology of Fragrances of the World. Please, Pankaj, let's see Michael, meet Michael. Okay.
I've started my video.
Try again, Michael.
There's nothing to say. Try. What do you want me to push? Share? Desktop one? You have to let me in.
Bear with us. Michael's in Australia. Hopefully the connection's good. I've got nothing here. Michael, can you hear me? Michael? Oh, he's sharing his screen.
I can hear you. Please connect me.
Shall I call him? Oh, here we go. Thank you. You're back, Michael.
Thank you.
Try to speak, Michael. Say some word.
Hello.
Okay, got it.
Hello, all of you. Good morning. I'm Michael Edwards. Can you guys hear me? Can you see me? Pankaj, I can only
Perfect.
see you.
Clear. We can hear you clearly.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be with you. I wish I could be with you in person, but sadly the EU won't let me with the 90-day rule. But I'm delighted to have the opportunity of introducing you to a treasured colleague of mine, Pankaj Patel. If you've ever worked behind a counter in a perfumery, you'd know how difficult it is to sell fragrances. Perfume had no common language. Brands still do describe their fragrances quite differently one from the other. Without a guide, it was impossible to match fragrances, and a cacophony of confusion. In 1984, 40 years ago, I took the first step. I created the first guide that matched fragrances, family by family, fragrance by fragrance. In effect, in essence, I created a common language for fragrance that was simpler to use, easier to understand. And today, my classifications in the fragrance wheel are used worldwide. Each year, I would update the guide, 85, 86, 87, 88, and so on. I was working with Pankaj on sampling projects at that time. He could see the evolution of the work. He became intrigued, and in 1995, he said to me, "Why don't you put this on CD-ROM? He'll explain to you why 95 was kind of the pivotal year." Well, he did, and we presented it to House of Fraser in Oxford Street. They loved it, and they launched it in the Fragrance Hall A beautiful installation. Imagine the computer in the middle, and all around it would be plastic flowers and grasses and herbs, and you name it. I went to the launch. Sadly, it didn't last very long. In fact, just a couple of weeks, because 2 days after I went in, the cleaners once evening were looking for a PowerPoint. They didn't realize the PowerPoint there was connected to the computer. They took it out, and no one in the department knew how to switch off or switch on the computer. Well, that was the start of our digital revolution. And then in 1988, 1989, the dot-com revolution happened. And we were asked by Beauty.com, one of the first major online perfumeries online, to create a fragrance finder. They had known of my work, they'd seen the House of Fraser CD-ROM, and they said, can you put this on online? And that was when Pankaj became the first to actually create an online fragrance finder. The digital future fascinated me. And in 2000, I commissioned Pankaj to create a database to store all the content that we were developing. In 2004, Fragrances of the World, the database launched with 4,300 fragrances. Today, it's grown to 47,000 fragrances. I would imagine you think that retailers would be queuing up for fragrance finders online. Dream on. They love in-store fragrance finders. They love the drama. But they were very cool, hesitant about online fragrance finders. We struggled, no kidding. We struggled for near 20 years. Oh, we had a lot. We did for DFS and Nuance and you name it. But it was a tough sell. The perfumeries, the department stores were totally absorbed by in-store. Online was not part of their agenda. And then, in 2000, COVID hit. And the whole opportunity flipped. Department stores, perfumeries turned to online. And in just 3 years, 2020, 21, 22, we and our retail partners created online fragrance finders. For Douglas, the EU's biggest perfumery chain in Germany, Issy Paris, the Sephora of the Benelux countries, the Perfume Shop and Boots in the United Kingdom, Marionneau in 8 EU countries, Mossy Bay in France, Martino, the vast Polish site, Fabula in Italy, Lyco in the Scandinavian countries, Macy's, Ulta, Twisted Lily, Zygo in the States, Renner in Brazil. Fragrance the World supplies the content. And now, the retail generation is about to enter its next stage. AI, artificial intelligence, is about to hit. 5 years ago, Pankaj briefed me on it. In November 2022, just 5 months ago, AI, ChatGPT, the chat box launched. In just 5 months now, this month, version 4 is with us. AI will create great opportunities, but I suspect bigger problems, because it delivers information, if you've ever gone into it, with what seems like complete confidence. You've got to believe it. It's like your trusted doctor. It's difficult to know what's right or wrong. But you know that fragrance misinformation has always been a real problem. So much online is either wrong, or accurate, or silly. Now the danger is that AI will turn crap into fact. Sorry, but that's likely to happen. At Fragrances of the World, we work our butts off to ensure that Fragrance of the World is accurate, impartial. Working with brands and perfumers, we've matched 47,000 fragrances. We'll be close to 50 soon. We want to spread the word. And that's why I was so happy when Puig approached me to partner on Wiki Parfum. I needed a bigger muscle to work with me. Wiki Parfum, the online encyclopedia, launched in May 2020, just as COVID started. Sounds silly, but in fact it was a great opportunity because it gave us the chance to fine-tune Wiki Parfum during lockdown We added languages, there are now 7 languages there. We added fragrances. Last year, it rolled out to the United States and to Canada and Brazil. And then just before Christmas, Tmall hosted Wikiparfum in China. There has never been a development like this in the Chinese market. And it was Tmall that asked us to host Wikiparfum. If you are not familiar with it, it is the Alibaba beauty syndrome there, with near, hold your breath, 1 billion monthly active users. The loveliest thing is that the major groups, from Coty to L'Oreal and the others, are backing Wikiparfum. One group I saw in Paris last month called it the innovation of the decade. It is quite literally the first universal encyclopedia. And to brief you on the digital retail revolution that's happening now, yesterday, and tomorrow, may I introduce Pankaj Patel, my colleague who developed the first online fragrance finder for me in 1999, who helped me turn Fragrance the World into the world's perfume resource. He'll trace for you the evolution of online fragrance finders. He'll share his insights. He's probably the most experienced man I know, because he's been working on fragrance finders now for coming up 23 years. And he'll be happy to answer your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Fragrance Pankaj Patel.
Thank you, Michael. Fragrance of the world. We've become the go-to source for information and recommendation, just very much similar to how Google is the go-to for search engine when it comes to internet searching. Our database has become the universal language for both our Encyclopedia of Fragrance database, which today is being utilised by many brands, houses, perfumers, and retailers all around the world. Our system today, our content database provides information to companies such as Wikiparfum, Macy's, Douglas, The Perfume Shop, Twisted Lily, and also oil houses such as Simrise. We've done adaptation of our database. It all started with the wheel that Michael mentioned back in 1984. He found a way to classify fragrances using common languages into 14 families. Fragrances fell into one of these 14 families. And over time, yes, that has evolved as well. He's got notes in there and sub-notes and so forth. But initially started with a very simple 14 family fragrance wheel. This in turn, he furthered with adding fragrances and creating his first guidebook, which became an annual publication, and over years grew with the number of fragrances. And it was in '95 that I approached Michael to say, we should convert your guidebook into a into a CD-ROM application. Now that's purely because Windows 95 had come out, computers were reasonably priced, and we were able to convert it. And our first print to digital took place on a CD-ROM. It's a very simple application, enter your fragrance you like, and we would say, here's 3 or 4 fragrances that are very similar to it. Went into House of Fraser, and over time, over the next few years, we acquired more and more retailers that came on board, but these were all in-store kiosk applications. It was the 1999 internet boom, Amazon, eBay, all these new e-commerce sites were popping up, and gave inspiration to some of the fashion sites to come on. Beauty.com was one of them. They approached Michael, we love your CD-ROM application, but we want this to be online. How do we get there? Well, we had to go and rethink how we did things, redid our application and made it a online hosted solution. Michael enjoyed it. He really got wrapped up in the actual boom of the beauty.com, what we did for them. And at that same time, he approached me saying, how can we put this as an online database that retailers and perfumers and oil houses could access? So we created our first encyclopedia online, which is fragranceoftheworld.info, and that's been around since 2004. It was so well received that in 2004 itself, he got awarded the FIFI Award for the technological achievement for the database, and retailers started to take notice of him. The database itself contains a search engine which allows you to search for a fragrance out of our 45,000 fragrances. We hold information such as brand, the gender, the year of the launch, the country of launch. We also hold the family it belongs to. We hold sales bites. And these sales bites are, again, it's not made up. We actually we work with the actual brands, we curate it, and we pick a 3-letter word to explain about the fragrance itself. We also hold a pyramid, which is the Michael's head, heart, and base notes. Within the pyramids, we identify in bold what are the dominant notes of the fragrance itself. And these are the ingredients we're showing here, what we call the brand ingredients. So for the retail market, we actually consolidate these ingredients itself, because otherwise not all consumers will understand what mandarin green stands for, but we use the word mandarin there. We also curate stories behind the fragrance. Again, the stories are curated with the help of the brand itself, but we've got a team of writers that put this together for us. We research and find out who the olfactive direction is, so that's presented here. The oil house behind it, and the perfumers, and the bottle designer as well. This database fascinated a lot of the retailers. So they weren't ready for a fragrance finder within the retail store, but what they wanted to do was utilize our classification. So a lot of the retailers started adapting the actual the fragrance wheel within their design of the actual retail itself. So here's some examples across the world. Nuance, DFS shops, large retail department stores. Quite amazing little setup of furniture and the way they've done it, and group fragrances into family. And again, this took notice and he has also won a FIFI Award for this in 2007 for the use of his adaptation of his database within the retail as an in-store retail application. From that adaptation, sorry, someone skip. Go back one. Go back here. The API was the next step. We went out of from the in-house in-store application, and today we have companies such as Perfume Shop, Twisted Lily. They utilize our API for their front-end application that does the fragrance finder. From the actual API, we managed to create a translation into 7 languages, working towards 22 languages in the coming years. But right now we have 7 languages that's been translated into. So the use of the API happens where the front end is hosted on the retailer site. they make a call on our API endpoints. And this could be whether it's a search for a brand or fragrance or an occasion or mood or ingredient. Our servers then, using the algorithm, does a recommendation, and we then send the content back to the retailer. They have full control as to how the presentation will take place. It's their style guide that they need to follow, not our style guide. We do host the images, and that's available through our CDN. And today, on average, we do about 50 million images are being hosted per month, or are being called on, requested through our CDN. And that's for retailers all over the world. An example of a fragrance finder is the perfume shop. They've created a landing page for Michael where there's explanation about his family. They've got ability to explore by the family. But the two main ways to enter the fragrance finder is either enter your fragrance you like, or let the expert guide you. The expert guide is mainly asking about the mood, what occasion the fragrance is for, plus a price point. With Match My Favorite, matter of typing a fragrance you currently like, a list is presented. Now this is from our 47,000 fragrances. And when the user clicks on the fragrance they like, we then present 3 fragrances, sometimes 4. We feel that 3 to 4 is the maximum you should go to in order to help customers make a decision. On the 3 that we present here on the screen, we give you some explanation as to which is the best match, the first one. We also give a percentage match, and that percentage match is based on a whole bunch of data points, things like family, note, subnote, ingredients, distribution channel belongs to, whether it's a prestige match with a prestige fragrance. And that also gets calculated and then presented to the user. How it's presented, again, we leave that to the retailer who owns the site. But down the bottom, we give the actual family it belongs to, so you can very clearly identify these are all amber fragrances. And plus 3 dominant notes. And the dominant notes, again, we provide images for those actual notes. Clicking on on a panel, they've presented additional information that was provided in the API, our key notes, keywords that would define the fragrance, plus the story underneath it. And stories, in our case, we can provide, and the keynotes, we can also provide that in different languages. And down the bottom is the mood. Now, all those things are provided through the API. And if the user then clicks on the actual fragrance itself to view it, again, through the API, we can then return you back to the actual fragrance detail page. And in the detail page, up until probably 2020, that was the end of our part of the actual recommendation. So we've taken the person to the actual product detail page, and that was the end of it. What we found, we found a way to actually turn the entire site into a fragrance finder. We enhanced our API, added a few more endpoints. So the site can then pass the barcode of the product that the person has landed on. We then provide more information about this fragrance. Now, additional information is, in this case, underneath there are 3 panels. You may like, similar sense, and find your match. Clicking on those takes you down to about us, about this fragrance. Now, here's a snippet of the actual fragrance, what family it falls into, some of the dominant notes it has. But further down, we give some similar scents as well, so similar fragrances. Now, what this does, it takes the person into now a journey. If this is a fragrance they do like, it's now taking them into a journey to other similar fragrances that's available on the site. They don't have to keep jumping back to the actual fragrance finder tool. They're now within the PDP page, have now started to travel through and find other fragrances. It may be a case, maybe that this is not the fragrance like, so we've now make available the Find Your Match. And one extra addition we did here was not just add one fragrance you like, we can enter up to two or three fragrances. We take the collection of those 3 fragrances, and again, using the algorithm, we then present similar fragrances. So person type of fragrance, again, a list of words or fragrances that match that what they've typed. They click on the fragrance, adds it to the list. Click Add New. We then go on and add more fragrances. And then either add one more, or you can say, find a match, I'm done with it. Here we present a profile of the user based on the 2 fragrances you've liked. In the API, we return the family group they belong to, a brief description about the family group itself, the family it belongs to, because we have 4 groups. Those 4 groups can have up to 3 to 4 families. So in this case, there's only one family, so we've narrowed down the person likes a particular fragrance, which is a woody amber scent. We then looked at, across those 2 fragrances that you like, what are the dominant notes, and again present in a pie chart what the makeup of those ingredients are. The bigger the sector, the share, obviously the 2 fragrances both have that same similar notes. And the sub-note. Now, fragrances can fall into various sub-notes. So here we've got 2 sub-notes that it can belong to. Again, clicking you can save your profile or proceed without saving, which means let's go and see the fragrances we can recommend. Up comes the 3 fragrances, 4. There's a scroll bar, you can move on, but again, we've shown you 3 fragrances here, which are similar to the 2 that you've liked. You've got 2 sub-notes here, so we may end up with 2 different sub-notes in this case, but you can see the family itself is woody amber, and there are some ingredients or the dominant notes that are across both of the or some of these fragrances. So these are kind of tools we've developed that retailers are using. Again, as Michael mentioned, Wikiparfum has become a major partner where we're providing all the content into their system, from which we are driving sites such as Macy's and Douglas, and using our API, clients such as the Perfume Shop or Twisted Lily, Fabula here in Australia, in Italy, that has our Italian translation version and the English version. And so they're the kind of sites we are utilising and that we produce. Wikiparfum, as I said before, is our future, but along came ChatGPT late last year. So we are developing a dedicated model within Michael's content. We've utilised Ada and DaVinci as the 2 models within the ChatGPT, and some interesting things are coming out in the sense that we can now isolate a fragrance collection that belongs to a retailer and then give a retailer a ChatGPT that will only talk about fragrances that they carry. It's learned from our internal database of 47,000 fragrances with our content, and being able to then recommend fragrances. It does the recommendation of whatever fragrance you select from our 47,000 fragrances, but you can also ask questions such as, I'm looking for a fresh fragrance or a woody fragrance or fragrance with a particular note or particular occasion. It knows, it goes into our model and then and displays the recommendation. Still early stages, a lot of work to be done, but we are hopeful and confident that we'll get a solution out in the next few months. I thank you for my time. Any questions? More than happy to answer. Must be something. No? Yes, it does. I mean, we do classify fragrances into, as you said, niche fragrances or luxury fragrances or prestige. And within the niche fragrances, we keep the as we call the distribution channel. We don't sort of go out and recommend a luxury fragrance against a niche. We'll keep it within the same channel first. Yeah. Yes.
Two questions actually.
Yeah.
Your developments, your AI or algorithm developments, how long would it take usually from the start to finish? And my second question related to this is your valuable challenges.
Okay. Most of our, I mean, as an API itself was developed over a long time. It took us probably 3 years to mature the product fully, but initially we said with beauty.com, we only had to search by fragrance or by brand. With those two API, they were quite simple and utilising the 14 families of Michael. But over that next 4 years, we added notes, sub-note, and then added the actual ingredient into the actual algorithm as well. So it took a while to mature. We work with clients quite closely. They constantly challenge us with new requests. And we've got a fairly savvy, smart team around us. It's not just me and Michael, but there's a team behind all of us. We sit down and we thrash it out. But it usually takes, a new edition, 1 month, 2 months to develop and fine-tune it and put it out. The ChatGPT is something that came out of nowhere. It was a left field. But going back 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we were playing with SageMaker within the AWS environment. We played with it. We found the solution wasn't quite what we wanted. So we stopped the development on that side. Our algorithm was doing much better job in recommendation. With ChatGPT, as Michael said, crap in, fact out. You have to be very careful. It will convince you that he's giving you the best answer and the right answer. A lot of consumers out there, they're not fully educated, but that's why we're working with OpenAI with our own particular model. The ADA model is where we do the initial search find the relative fragrance within our vectorized database, but it's the Da Vinci code of OpenAI that we do the actual delivery through. So we're using 2 models within the OpenAI. It's not quite there yet. It's still throwing recommendations which are not quite right. So a bit of work to be done. We're hoping next month or 2 months we'll have that ironed out, creating some boundaries around to keep it within the context. It sometimes tends to stray and starts talking about other things. So we don't want that to happen in a ChatGPT, but it can do that. But next couple of months, I think we'll have a product that's matured enough to maybe release to some of the retailers that are keen to take it on. Yeah.
Hi, Pankaj. Simon French. I do a lot of work with moods and emotions. I saw the occasions there as part of the search. Can you search by mood and emotion?
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we've got occasions, could be Christmas or Valentine's Day or every day. Or the mood is things such as woody natural scent or clean, fresh or casual experience or fun experience. So these are the moods we can put in, yeah. We've got those as well. So there's quite a few, eight different moods and about 8 or 9 different occasions we've developed for. Most of our retailers have taken on the mood function rather than the occasion, but we do try to encourage them, come Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or Father's Day or Christmas time to utilise the mood, but it's sometimes it's a bit hard to convince them to make changes on the site, so rapidly for a short period. But the mood has been the one that they've utilised through the sites quite extensively.
Great stuff. Thanks.
Yes. Good question. Thank you very much. With the actual, if there's no fragrance finder on the site, whatever your conversion rate is, the moment you put a fragrance finder, and if a user goes through the fragrance finder experience, 2 to 3 times better conversion. Time spent on the website, say average is spending 3 minutes on a site. The moment they get exposed to Fragrance Finder, it could be 9 minutes, 11 minutes. So we are keeping them engaged on the site a lot longer without the Fragrance Finder itself. So yes, it's a good tool to bring it on. People are looking for information, looking for ways and to help. I mean, sometimes you might be buying as a gift. You may know the person, what they're like, but how do I pick another fragrance? And online, a retailer can put thousands of SKUs, products online. In a retail store, you're restricted by your space, whereas online, there's no limit. It's how many you can fit into your database, I suppose. But when a user comes on your site, they get sort of inundated with information. So a tool like this does guide them into the right direction. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Kim Charles. I'd like to ask, what is your business model?
Our business model. We are the content providers. Our business is to curate and collect fragrance information. So we've gone into 2 areas. So one is your encyclopedia, as we call it, the database, and we cater for professionals, providing them information. So oil houses, perfumers, and retailers, educating them on fragrances that are there, and also telling them about what the new fragrances have launched. The other part is our recommendation engine. We know we have the content. We know we can use that information in helping people guide them into the right fragrances, buying the right fragrance. So our model is just purely to provide content and to provide recommendation. They're the two things we sort of work towards.
Yeah, you previously mentioned clients, your clients.
Yes.
Are they clients that pay?
Absolutely. So we charge them for our use of our API. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. 47,000 fragrances to do that, and we've got a team of people.
And would those clients be preferenced on search engines?
Absolutely not. To come into our database, to end up in our database, we don't charge anybody. There's no preference. No one can come in and say, we want you to influence us in the recommendation. When it comes to recommendation itself, we only recommend what's within the store. Now, the algorithm goes through step by step to what you like and to recommend. It's saying, okay, based on the inventory, these are the best match we have found. It's not taking into consideration what a particular brand may have paid for advertisement to the retailer. We don't take that into consideration at all. It's purely what is the best 3 or 4 that we can find. Now, there are times when we may have more than, we find 10, 20 fragrances that are best match, because it may be a particular sub-note. They carry, there may be 20 fragrances that they have all sitting within the same sub-note. At that point, we do allow the retailer to influence a particular fragrance to be preferred. There may be a promotion going on, but otherwise, as far as recommendations concerned, we get to the point we say, okay, here are the 10 we are recommending. Again, we keep it within this distribution channel, so we don't stay away from that. So we don't go recommending a prestige fragrance that's been recommended within the same sub-note to a luxury fragrance. We keep it within the same channel. If there's more than 3 or 4, they can influence which one would be the first one displayed. But outside of that, we do not take any influence from the retailer or from the brand to say that you should always recommend me. Yeah.
Hello. I want to ask about niche brands. How do you find them, especially when they're just starting out? Or do they have to come to you so they can find, like they have to find you?
Can I ask my evaluator here who's the niche expert. This is Clayton.
Hi everyone. So I'm part of the evaluation team, and with Erica Moore, our head of evaluation. Really, a combination of both. I mean, we're here for the next 4 days, so this is really, I think Essence is the perfect environment for us to collect all the information on new niche brands. As Pankaj said, that retailers obviously have their own inventory, but for us, the database is really about if you have a commercially available fragrance, even if you're a small niche artistic brand producing fragrances in your kitchen, as long as you have a website, it's available for sale. We want it in the database. So, this is how we spend the next 4 days, going around the 300 brands that are here and collecting all the information and making sure that we've spoken directly with the brand, collected all of their bottle images, their stories, and we classify the fragrances with them and enter the information into our database. Yeah.
They have a great life, the evaluators. They, the most travelled people within the company.
I'm going to add something. I'm the COO of the company. Just to clarify, we do not charge to list a brand. Where we obviously make our money from is that we're able to supply the content to retailers. And now, as Pankaj has mentioned, Wikiparfum. I'd encourage all of you to go on and have a look at Wikiparfum, wikiparfum.com. It's the encyclopedia that is going to grow. Michael's team, our team, provide all the content for that. The database Pankaj spoke about is for the researchers and the well houses and brands use that, and they pay to access that for their industry. They can do a research there. So just to clarify, we're here, we meet the brands, we do not charge for that access. It's to make sure that we have the content ready for the retailers who want to use the fragrance finders. Anyone else have any questions for Pankaj before we wrap up?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like to ask a question. Are you selling the data that is appearing on the searches? For instance, people putting in best vanilla in the world. Yeah. Okay. Are you actually reporting that back to the perfumers and to the shops? Are you selling it?
The searches being done on a particular retailer remains within the retailer. So we do not share that data with anybody else. We don't aggregate and share that information. It remains within their siloed information. We don't mix it with anybody else. We don't go back to the oil house and say this is what the trends are. It's purely for the retailer to know. We help them to say, okay, what searches are being done that they don't carry? What searches are being done they do carry? Where the trends are going, whether it's the ingredient we talk about. We also give them a breakup of their inventory to say how it's made up as far as the fragrance wheel is concerned, the 14 families, what the makeup is, and then we do a comparison to how people are searching. So are they matching or is it skewed? You know, they may have a lot of florals, but the searches are being done in the woody. So these are kind of insights we give back to the retailer. We don't share that information with any other third party. And that's been the philosophy of Michael from day one. Yeah. I know it's tempting, but we don't. That's it. Thank you very much. I hope it's been more as informative as I thought it would have been, but if there's any other questions, I'm here with Margaret and Erica and Clayton. Feel free to come up and talk to us. Thank you very much.